Joyce, and welcome to Smart Sarawak. So on Smart Sarawak, we talk with local innovators of the digital economy, and we try to pick their minds and just see how far working smart has got them in their careers. So today on Smart Sarawak, we have Reuben Wee, who is one of the founders of IDS, and it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Joyce.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also IDS?
Okay, I'll start with IDS. IDS stands for Independent Data Services. Okay. We started in 1996 in Adelaide, South Australia. What we did back then was primarily data collection and reports for the governments and stakeholders. We then developed a web-based solution. When I joined them in 1997-98, I was working on a web-based solution for them. We launched it in the year 2000, and we then launched the services in about 40 countries.
Okay.
And in 2004, we moved to Kuching to have the software development center here.
That's a really interesting question. Don't mind me if I stop you, but having worked in so many countries, was there a reason why you suddenly decided to, let's go back to Kuching and be based here?
Coming home,
Okay.
I wanted to come home. Basically, I think when we delivered web-based software, that's one thing that I realized. You don't really need to be at your client's geographic area to deliver the service. So I actually thought that in order for me to work more comfortably, it's better for me to come back home.
Okay.
Right? At that point in 2004, we had basic internet services. There was no broadband and all that.
Was it still the dial-up one where you have to call?
It was
wait for it?
No. I think we had. I can't remember then, but I know that we had a lot of dial-ups when I was in KL and Australia.
Okay.
And when I came back here, I think we already had StreamX and basic ADSL. In 2004, we started hiring people locally. Started in a small office, and then gradually grew the following year into a residential area. Okay. So we rented a house, and we had about 10 or 20 developers there. And we outgrew that house, and so we rented a next door neighbor's house. And then in about 2 years after that, we occupied 3 houses, right?
Wow. So how did the process of hiring people, because for example, me growing up, I didn't really know about that many people who were that involved in IT. It was always this taboo topic. Parents weren't exactly sure about, is this IT future safe? Should you really be dabbling on the computer? So how did you manage to find all these skilled people to work in IT with you?
It's not that difficult. Okay. At that time, we had University of Malaysia Sarawak. Okay. And it had a rather strong faculty in terms of the FIT, Faculty of Information Technology. I used to work in an FIT as well in 1993, so I knew that there was actually human capital that I could actually tap into. So a lot of the initial hires were graduates from University of Malaysia Sarawak.
Oh wow, so you really were harvesting local talents.
Yes.
And a lot of them are Sarawakians,
yes.
Local based?
Yes.
Okay, that's really impressive. And I feel like the best thing about the whole digital economy that's happening right now is that it gives everyone a fair platform. It doesn't matter if we are here or we're in Singapore, we can also do equal work. So can you tell me a little bit about how IDS works in terms of the digital economy?
In terms of the digital economy, I believe that we need to be strong as a content creator. So IDS primarily sits in software development, which is part of content creation and service creation. And we depend on the internet as our main highway for income generation. So this is where it's important that your infrastructure is good.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think I have to raise this up here. At this point, we still have to depend on infrastructure in Singapore,
Okay.
right? Because they have a fairly mature infrastructure, and we are we're working hard to catch up over here. So a lot of our services, all our production services, are hosted in Singapore.
Okay.
Right,
so down the line, is there anything that we can do as a state or maybe even as a country to be able to adopt that kind of infrastructure?
We do hope so. I mean, I'm always monitoring and working closely with the local parties to ensure that we have the capability and the resilience, what we call quality of service, that is acceptable by our clients.
Okay. I really want to bring this up because we got to visit your office a couple of days ago, and I was really impressed. Can you tell me about the inspiration behind the office and the little perks, especially the scrum meeting? I thought that was fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
The office, we were looking hard for a space that could mimic the houses, as I mentioned to you, that we had. Just to go back to the houses, the developers love the environment there.
Okay.
It had the work from home feel. It basically, they treated it like home. They come into the office, they take off their shoes, they come in. It becomes a tradition, and it becomes people come in using casual clothes. There's no
formal attire and suits.
So primarily that became the norm. So when we move into an office building,
that's why nobody wore shoes.
Correct.
Yeah.
No one wore shoes, and this was something that was unique. I think it builds the character of IDS. Although the other tenants was a little bit worried seeing casually dressed people going
just randomly go out to the office, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They eventually got used to us after a couple of years.
Tell us a little bit about the Scrum meeting, because I think that was the one thing that really impressed me.
Okay, Scrum is very important. It's actually a software development methodology. It's called agile Scrum, in which we try, with this methodology, we can actually speed up software development process.
Okay.
So in traditional sense, large software projects are delivered, are measured in terms of months, in terms of its delivery date. Whereas Scrum, we're talking about weeks or days, right? So we're able to provide very fast response to changes from the clients. So this means that we're able to react to clients' requirements very quickly.
Yeah. So for the Scrum meetings, you mentioned that it happens in the mornings. Does it happen every morning in the office?
Every morning.
Okay.
All the developers for one particular project come together. There's no boss inside there. Everyone works as a team.
Okay.
So everyone own up to what they've done yesterday, what they're going to do today, and what are the blockers that are stopping them. And then the team or the Scrum leader will then work in trying to remove those blockers.
Okay.
Right.
I also love how the layout of the office was. It felt almost like a little maze with all multiple colors, and you sort of like figure your way out around the place. Was that your idea?
Yeah. So they can't go home. So
oh, okay. Yeah, definitely.
Well, actually, it was we were trying to fit or maximize the space. The main reason why it looked like a maze was essentially to create as much private corners as we can for the software developers. Most of the software developers, they have a character. They're geeks, for example, right? So they don't communicate well with other human beings.
They don't need light.
So they tend to be in their corners, and they work best in a corner. Yeah.
Okay, referring to the whole character thing, I feel like nowadays you can look at a lot of very bright IT people, and it's true, they're sort of labeled as geeks and nerds. Did you have that problem growing up? Were you ever bullied?
Yes,
people call you
I have a
nerd?
sense of, when I was growing up, I was always labeled as a rascal at home.
Okay.
Because of my curious sense of curious nature. My favorite tool was a Phillips head screwdriver,
Okay.
in which I would take apart any electronics that I can get my hands on and try to find out how it actually works.
Oh.
So I became, Dennis the Menace kind of boy growing up. And I find that there's very few people that I could relate to. I think in school, I could count on one hand the number of people that I could actually talk to and relate to the curiosity that goes through our minds in terms of how things worked.
Okay.
Right? There was no club for that sort of things. You have photography club, but you don't have a club for taking things apart.
Okay. So one of the things with IDS that I thought was also really impressive is the fact that all of you create your own programs in-house. So what's the process of that like? Because there's definitely no copy and paste that happens.
Yes, this is something that goes back to my childhood days. I think when I was 13 years old, when I got my first computer, there was not really a lot of software out there to buy. We had to create our own software. So you buy magazines or books, and then at the back of the books they have little source code that you can copy and see and change. And so you learn from there and you develop your own things like games and all these kind of things on your own computer. So
I feel like I probably wasn't paying attention to magazines back then because I never knew that
no,
there
it
were
was
such
that
things.
all the source code. It was very much. Those were the days where you can actually learn a lot from magazines, and I appreciated them. That they were my source of education. Okay. So moving forward to today, I think that it is important for us to create our own technology and not just consume libraries all the time. It doesn't mean that we don't consume. In some cases, you don't want to recreate the wheel, but in most of the time, you would like to create something yourself. Yeah. The people who create it will have a sense of pride, and what you do is that you actually create local content.
That's true.
Right? In a digital economy, as I mentioned, you have either the consumers or the content creators, and you would like to have this maker mentality in which you want to invent something and create something so that your ideas can grow into other ideas, right? So this is, I believe that this is something that is required as a basis for digital economy.
And I feel like that applies to all kinds of careers, not just like digital economy. It could be in the media, it could be in like any field basically, that if you can create your own content, it's definitely better than, just take everybody's work, copy it, change the name and rebrand it.
Well, yes. I mean, there is no shame in inspiration.
Yeah.
Right? Standing on shoulders of giants it allows you to get further up. And always saying that you can
learn from the mistakes of others.
Yes, correct. So these are all very important lessons.
That's true. So how do you market IDS?
So we have a sales office in the UK. We have sales office in Calgary, and we have sales representatives around the world.
Okay.
So these are the social butterflies. The
PR.
The people who are creative in thinking about business and how to link things together, how to create products, right? Technical people, engineers particularly, they love to solve problems, right? But many of them do not know how to create something out of thin air. You need to have those problems put in front of you and then they solve it.
True.
So these people, the salespeople and the product designers, they can basically package those problems and give it to us, and we can develop the technology to solve it.
Okay. So thank you so much for sharing your ideas with me, because I always felt like the digital economy was this concept that I hear of, but I couldn't really put to words what it exactly was. But looking at IDS and seeing the way you guys work has really been eye-opening. So thank you for having come on the show, and we can't wait to inspire others the way you inspired me today.
Thank you very much.
So this was Smart Sarawak. We hope to see you in the next episode.